I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll, please. Okay.
Councilor Anderson? Here. Councilor Kamel? Here. Councilor Condon? Here. Councilor Crowe? She's here. Councilor Matheson? Here. Councilor Murphy? Here. Councilor O'Malley? Here. Councilor Sika? Here. Councilor Spatafora?
He's here.
Councilor Winslow? Here. Council President DiMaria?
Here. Thank you. Also, under the provisions of the open meeting law, and for those of you in attendance, please be advised MATV will be recording this evening, and one of our Malden residents, John Mayara, will also be recording. So please be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business.
Todd Cole from the Malden School Choral Arts Society will appear before the City Council.
Thank you. So we have a special treat for the council tonight. We have the Malden High School Choral Arts, and I think what I'd like to do is have you come up to the stage, and we're going to go down so you'll be on TV, and okay? So if all the counselors could come sit down, that would be great. And then the floor is all yours.
December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. Oh, the child was born this night, so rosy white, so rosy white. And the virgin fool, in a stable, clean and lovely, boom, boom, boom. On December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. On December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. On December's most important day, let us begin, let us begin. We go first to church and then we have the sweetest buns and candy. Boom, 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 boom. God will send us days of feasting. Boom, 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 boom. God will send us days of feasting. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, the hot nuts and it cold for young and old, for young and old. Boom, boom, ever singing of His glory. Boom, boom, boom.
These are all juniors and seniors at Malden High School, so they've already had a few years of experience, and I'm so proud of all the work they do. We're going to finish this evening with a traditional song that many of you know, which is Carol of the Bells.
Wasn't that lovely? Wasn't that wonderful? Gets us right in the spirit. Next order of business?
Mark Carrera, Executive Director of the Immigration Learning Center, will appear before the City Council.
Welcome. Welcome, Mark. That's a hard act to follow, but I know you'll do a great job. Oh, hold on a second. Wait a minute. There you go.
All right. Yes, that's a hard act to follow. They were wonderful. No one wants to hear me sing, trust me, so I won't torture you with that. My name again is Mark Carrera. I'm from the Immigrant Learning Center. I'm the Director of Development. I'm fairly new to the position since August. Some of you may know Kathy Smith. So I was with Kathy just a little while ago. She sends her regards. And of course, I bring regards from Diane Portnoy, our founder and CEO, to all of you. I thought I just would want to come out and introduce myself and to let you know that I am making I do want to come out into the community. I want our school and our students to be connected with the community. I've given some statistics there. I didn't bring enough for everyone. We are, of course, a nonprofit, so I don't print up many, many things. I've got lots more information at your request. I can offer anything. You can see from our stats, we have, this year, we've had 882 students. You can see the countries and the communities are represented in Malden and all the surrounding areas. More specifically, if you flip to the, the third page, there are 397 just from Malden. We recently had a swearing-in ceremony last month, which was at the Jenkins Auditorium also, and that's in collaboration with USCIS, U.S. Citizens and Immigration Services. The high school, of course, is wonderful, helping us out, and MIRA, Mass Immigrants and Refugee Alliance. So there were 171 new citizens. 51 new voters were registered that day. So that's a lot of numbers. Sometimes people are interested in numbers. I did include some stories in the little information there. And that's basically it. I thank you for having me, and I just wanted to introduce myself and my hopes that I can continue to reach out and be part of the community. Do you have any questions from me?
Actually, there is a light on the floor, so if you can hang in here for a minute.
Sure, yeah.
Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you very much for coming today. So the Immigrant Learning Center is actually in Ward 4, where I represent. And just for our residents, could you give us like kind of a high level, what kind of services do you provide?
Absolutely.
What is the Immigrant Learning Center?
Yeah, sure. So the Immigrant Learning Center gives immigrants a voice in 3 ways. Mostly what you'll see us doing is giving students English classes. So these are not just English classes, once a week. This is 5 days a week. It's an intensive class, so they're there at least 3 hours a day. They can't be late more than 3 times because we have a waiting list now of 800. We have added new classes. We've hired new teachers because we had a waiting list of 700. Now we have a waiting list of 800. I don't know how to explain it. We do not advertise, it's word of mouth. So the foremost thing we do is provide free English classes. This is important because when someone comes to this country, if they can't speak, they can't connect with their community. They can't ask someone in the city for help. They can't ask someone in a grocery store what the price is of something or to get something from the shelf. We do have a seniors class. So first, speaking English is important. But it's also important that they connect with the community and know what is Malden. So the city, working with the mayor, the fire department comes in to talk about fire codes. And if there's a fire alarm, if there's a fire, the police department comes in so they know the police department and feel comfortable talking with them. And a lot of information comes from the city. Malden Redevelopment Authority talks about lead paint. So we're very grateful to have those collaborations. And the school's been there for 26 years now. We're in our 26th year. The other thing we do is provide workshops, free workshops, mostly online, to educate the public on immigrants as assets to this country, economic and social. So those webinars are free. So they go to teachers, they go to religious groups, they go to politicians and the general public. Anyone and everyone is free to sign up. And we've had hundreds of people from every state in the country. The third thing we do is provide research through, am I getting too much information?
It's perfect.
All right, awesome. George Mason University, it's a collaboration we have, And through them, we are able to provide research, facts-based research, so that when people have conversations, they can use facts and not just a personal anecdote here or there. And it's important. Does that answer your question?
It does, Mark. Thank you very much for everything both you and the Immigrant Learning Center does for our community as well as the greater community.
Thank you so much.
And from the chair, I'm so glad you had the time to come tonight in front of the council. I think your work is so valuable in our community and to help segue our huge diverse population. So I see no further lights, and I thank you so much for coming.
You. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so we have public comment, which is next, and there was a sign-up sheet. Have we gathered that? I have it. Wonderful. Okay, so first we have Mr. Neil Kinnan from 11 Spruce Street. Please come up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. I am here this evening to ask you to vote no on the 16-year-olds voting and rather put it to the citizens first before it goes anywhere for a vote. You have heard the reasons for no, but please consider. A 16-year-old cannot smoke legally, purchase vape products or enter stores, sign up, most importantly, for selective service, sign a contract binding themselves to anything, and except for capital crime, cannot even be considered as an adult in the state of Massachusetts. The state constitution does not recognize them as adults, nor allow them to vote. All studies say the human brain is not close to being fully developed, and most 16-year-olds have not completed high school, nor completed the seminal, in-depth courses in American history and Western world history, so important to the basic understanding of our republic and its founding and the reasons for voting. Finally, and the only argument I've heard that stops some people is that they pay taxes when working. Very, very few, as most will be refunded. And if that is the hurdle we must pass, why not 14-year-olds with working papers, non-citizens, and illegal aliens, all who pay taxes, and many in the latter two categories who pay more taxes than any 16-year-old ever will. Is that next? When you vote, I hope you reflect that the movement to reduce the age was started in World War II when 18-year-old draft went from 21 and lasted for 30 years. That was not a light and transient reason. As the Constitution says, we should not change things like the Constitution or our charter for things that are like that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Please consider this.
Thank you, Mr. Kinnan. Okay, and next we have Jeff Taylor from 57 Mount Vernon Street.
Thank you, City Council. So I wanted to speak in favor of letting 16-year-old vote in our municipal elections. I think anybody that's watched the news over the last few years see that people have become engaged and informed about civic issues at a younger age. 16-year-olds are able to drive, and I feel like 18 is a really tough age to be a first-time voter, to step into the voting block. At 18, you're applying for school or just getting into school. You're moving potentially to another part of the country or further away in the state. So you're settling where you're living, and that kind of can. Do you want to vote in your hometown or in the state that you're going to be living in? Who knows? Maybe from then on. So 16 it gets them in the door, and they've already voted once, and it's one less thing they have to figure out at a really crucial age of 18. And I've read some studies that show that 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, when they get involved in the process earlier, it leads to kind of a better voting situation for the city in general. And it gets the parents of those 16-year-olds that are voting down to the voting booth where maybe they wouldn't. It gets them talking at the kitchen table about the topics that are going to be voted upon. So it kind of just makes a more informed citizenry in general. So I think it's a good idea, and I hope the council would adopt that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay, and next is Mike DiNicola from 509 Fellsway East.
Hello, Council. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I'm also here to speak in favor of increasing the voting rights in municipal elections. I think many of you know me. I'm the chair of our Revolution Malden, and I've looked into this issue, and as Jeff mentioned earlier, we already have statistics. This wouldn't be the first time this is done in this country, that increasing this access to voting would actually improve voter turnout, not just with our new younger cohort, but also with all voters. And I would hope that, as elected officials yourselves, you would all be in favor of increasing voter turnout. I really can't see a great argument against this other than the alleged, these young adults are not yet fully formed in their opinions. They may not know everything about politics. I know that each and every one of you has knocked on doors of folks in this city and probably met people of varying degrees of knowledge on local elections and political matters. So I don't think that there's any different between somebody age 16, age 18, often age 30. So I think that this is something that's likely going to happen in the near future. I would hope that Malden could be a leader in Massachusetts. Like I said, it's not the first time this would be done in the U.S. I'm a little tired of seeing us wait around for others to take the lead. Let's make a bold decision and, be known for doing something good. Every time that voting rights have been increased in this country, that's been better for our democracy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiNicola. Next up is, I'm going to ruin this name, Brinti Siji. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. My name is Brooke Tsege, and I live at 130 Alden Street. I am here today with my Youth Civics Council to speak on behalf of the Vote 16 initiative raised by the Malden Rising leaders. I know many of you are hesitant to vote favorably on this issue because of the stereotype that teenagers are not mature or old enough to take part in a cornerstone of our democratic government. But although that stereotype is not unfounded, it's grossly misrepresentative of our students in Malden. Just in our school, we have the high school Democrats, Teenage Republicans, Mock Trial Team, Feminism Club, Speech and Debate, National Honor Society, Social Activism Club, and dozens more that work to impact our community and getting involved in politics in Malden. And then outside of school, there are organizations like Youth and Government and Malden Youth Civics Council, which I am a part of. There are students who spend weeks researching congressional legislation to debate floors in 13-hour tournaments like we do in our speech and debate team. There are students who volunteer hundreds of hours to community organization. There are clubs like the National Honor Society who carry as a club more than 30 service projects every year and raise up to $10,000 to give to the Malden Housing Authority, becoming the biggest contributor to that organization. And then there are also students who work nights to support their families. These are the students who are mature and old enough to vote and who have responsibilities like adults. Everything that happens in the city affects us, whether it be through our parents or directly in school. We deserve the right to vote in our local elections. And we're taking history classes starting from freshman year. We take AP Advanced Placement US History and many other history classes starting from freshman year. Students who will register, research their candidates, and go out to vote on election day are students mature enough and old enough and educated enough to vote. I hope you will choose to enact the Vote 16 in Malden, helping students who are involved, helping create students who are involved in their community, active in their government, and who will encourage parents and family members to take part in the right that all citizens in this country have been given. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up is Ted Louise Jacks, and that is our last public speaker tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be very short, and I just want to say that over the last 6 months, these students, they have been working hard on this, which started as a project, and later on it snowballed into a paper before you guys, sponsored by Councilor Winslow. They have, again, put in a lot of hours into this, 700 plus hours of research. They've spoken with city and state leaders. They've emailed most of you guys or called you guys on the phone to speak on behalf of this issue. And just today, we've collected over 250 signatures from high school students across all 3 schools that are in favor of this. And we, with the track that we're going, we're looking to get to over 1,000 before the by next month. 1,000 signatures of students, 16, 17-year-olds that are in favor of this. So again, I just wish that I could answer any questions that you guys may have later on about this topic. If you still have any reservation, and I urge you to let us get send this up to the next step, which is to the state legislator for them to do their research and their vetting on this issue. And then it'll come back to the city of Malden. Then we can put it in front of the people, the voters, for them to decide whether or not they would want something like this to happen. Again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you guys in considering voting in favor of the Vote 16 initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacks. Okay, next.
Approval of the minutes for November 27, 18, and December 4, 2018.
Thank you. On Councillor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next order of business, please.
The following are license renewals and so forth. Class 1 Bay State Ambulance, 163 Eastern Ave, Malden, that's a renewal. Class 2 Wentworth Auto Sales, 730 Eastern Ave, Malden, 15 cars, renewal. Class 2 Skips Auto Service, 74 Highland Ave, Malden, 12 cars. Regano's Towing, 1081 Fellsway, Malden, 20 cars. Andy Service Center, 356 Lebanon Street, Malden, 3 cars. Colleton Brothers, Inc., 61 Clinton Street, Malden, 2 cars. Broadway Auto Sales, 628 Broadway, Malden, 0 cars, it's a renewal. Uno Auto Sales, 369 Salem Street, Malden, 20 cars. Absolute Auto Rentals and Sales, Inc., 495 Broadway, 16 cars. Class 2 Brothers Auto Bodies, 969 Salem Street, renewal. Auto Bazaar Corp., 17 Charles Street, Malden, 21 cars. Seekers Auto, 114 Eastern Ave, 2 cars. Seekers Auto Sales and Service, Inc., 449 Ferry Street, 15 cars. Macmillan Automotive, 388 Eastern Ave, Malden, 15 cars. These are amusement machines. Town Line 10 Pin, 665 Broadway, Malden, 25 machines. Pearl Street Station Restaurant, 53 Summer Street, Malden, 2 machines. Italian American War Veterans, Post 1640 Oakland Street, 4 machines. Extended hours, Dunkin' Donuts, 59 Eastern Avenue, 24/7, renewal. Dunkin' Donuts, 617 Broadway, Malden, 7 days, 4 to 11. Extended hours, Dunkin' Donuts, 424 Main Street, Malden, 7 days, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Extended hours, Dunkin' Donuts, 245 Pleasant Street, 5 a.m. to 11. Extended hours, Honeydew Donuts, 691 Eastern Ave, 7 days, 5 to 9.
Refer to license, please.
Thank you. On Councillor Anderson's motion to refer the petitions to license, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The petitions are referred. Next order of business, please.
These are motions. Be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the Revised Ordinance of 1991, as amended, be further amended by adding new sections 800.6.2.24b, 300.3.2.13, 400.1, .2.10, 500.1, .2.9, 500.2.3 relative to co-housing.
On Councilor Winslow's motion to refer that matter to Rules and Ordinance.
Let's see, were we going to, I thought we would refer this to a joint hearing of the.
Joint planning and,
Yeah, joint planning and rules and ordinance.
thank you.
Thank you, great.
Thank you, Councilor. So on Councilor Winslow's motion to refer that matter to a joint planning board and Rules and Ordinance Committee hearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that matter is referred. Next order of business.
Resolved, that is the sense of the Malden City Council that Sue Sandberg, President and CEO of Melrose Wakefield Healthcare, provide Malden City Council with an update on Lawrence Memorial Hospital or any updates and/or changes proposed to Lawrence Memorial Hospital.
On Councilor Condon's motion to pass this resolve, would you like a moment to speak on this, Councilor?
Yes, I'd like
Thank
an
you.
update by the CEO of Melrose Wakefield. Kind of reminds me of the Malden Hospital when they started to make some changes, and ultimately their goal was to close the facility. Well, I'd like to know what their plans are, because it does affect Malden people. People, particularly on the west side. I know a lot of the Edgeworth residents, Ward 3 residents, they use that the Lawrence Memorial Hospital. So I'd like to know what their end game is here, whether or not there's a plan to end up closing the hospital and what they're trying to do right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilor Condon. Yeah, if you recall, it's the same healthcare organization, Hallmark Health, that closed the Malden Hospital in 1999 after they acquired the hospital in 1997. The city of Malden had given them $1 million to keep it open as an outpatient service emergency room, but that only bought us 2 years. And in the last 20 years, we've had an abandoned building that's served as a blight to our neighborhood. I would hate to see the same thing happen to the Lawrence Memorial Hospital. I know their proposal is to take away the inpatient and leave it as an outpatient emergency room. But shame on us if we allow the same healthcare organization to leave 2 abandoned hospitals with no plan to remediate that land. So I support this. I hope she comes.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Matheson. So this is a resolve. I'm sorry, I didn't see your light, Councilor O'Malley.
No worries. So we recently learned that there is a quirk in state law that allows a body like ours to call people before us under oath. Quincy has decided to do that with National Grid's CEO. And I'm wondering if the petitioner would be open to exploring the use of that provision and having them come before us and testify under oath. I don't know the exact terminology. We'd have to refer to the specific state law. I would defer to the clerk and solicitor's office on that. But I don't want to delay that tonight necessarily. But I just wanted to throw it out there that that's something we have up our sleeve, potentially.
Thank you. So I think we'll move forward with the resolve, and we can research the law. Okay, on Councilor Condon's motion to pass the resolve, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Sika? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes, thank you. So that passes unanimously. Thank you, Councilor Condon, for that. And we'll research the law to see if we can push it a little further. Okay, next order of business, please.
Order that the engineering finish the crosswalk in front of 557 Pleasant Street prior to the winter.
Okay, Councilor Condon again.
Thank you. This is a very, very busy section of Pleasant Street. They recently did the road work from West Street to the Fellsway. However, they covered over the crosswalk, and unfortunately somebody was killed there about a year and a half. So actually this paper should read City Engineer Yem, because he did the contract to do the road, and there's also money in there, from what I understand, to do the crosswalk. I had a conversation with him tonight and asked him if he could please complete that before the first of the year, and he said he would move forward on it.
Did you want to add something? Councilor
Yeah,
Matheson?
no, I completely support this. I don't know why it would be waiting beyond the winter. It's a crosswalk. It serves hundreds of elderly residents in our city. It should be completed, and with great zeal, and hopefully without delay. So I join Councilor Condon in this paper. I hope it happens forthwith.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. I also did speak through the chair to Engineer Lip, and I guess it was a weather situation, but he did confirm that he would do that. So we certainly can move forward with the order. So we're going to amend the DPW to the city engineer in this order, or?
Yes.
Okay, so then that's an amendment made by Councilor Condon, seconded by Councilor Kamel, to amend the wording saying that the city engineer finished the crosswalk in front of 557 Pleasant Street. Okay, so all those in favor on the amendment? Yep. Any opposed? Okay, so the amendment passes. Yep, I have a light on the floor.
I just have a point of information. If we want this order to become effective tonight, do we need to suspend the rules to, because winter is upon us, or I don't know this kind of order.
No.
So we'll just order it tonight, and we'll just, all right, no need to refer to committee. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Councilor Winslow. Okay, so we've suspended we have amended the order, so we are going to move forward with Councilor Condon's motion to adopt the amended order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Sika? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next order of business.
We have a communication from the mayor relating to the establishment of a committee to review the city charter.
Letter dated December 6th, Malden City Council. Attention, Debbie DiMaria, President, 110 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. 02148. Dear President DiMaria, as you know, we recently organized and consolidated the charter for easier public access, and it is now available on our city's website. Not surprisingly, the consolidated charter revealed a number of organizational inconsistencies, outdated provisions, and operational inefficiencies. I believe that we owe it to the residents of our city to work forward toward strengthening and modernizing this important document. Therefore, I am inviting the City Council to join me in establishing a charter review committee to begin the work of making these important revisions and updates. Because our charter is and will remain a special act charter, we must work together as equal partners, giving serious and deliberative thought to a structural framework that will best reflect the current needs of the community. Specifically, I recommend that a 5-member committee composed of 2 mayoral and 3 city council designees begin meeting in January. My designee to the Charter Review Committee will be Maria Louise and Ron Hogan. I encourage the City Council President to designate 3 members of the City Council to work with them. A January start date will ensure that prospective changes are sent to the state legislature by late spring, early summer, allowing any provisions that require voter approval to appear on the 2019 municipal election ballot. As recommendations begin to come together, we can provide the community with regular updates and solicit public input. Finally, I suggest that Karen Anderson and Sheila Famano, who worked on the initiative to consolidate the charter, provide administrative support to the committee. I look forward to working with the council on this important task and believe that it will allow us to improve the quality and effectiveness of city government for our residents. In the meantime, please contact me with any questions or suggestions to this proposal. Sincerely, Gary Christensen, Mayor of Malden.
Thank you very much. So next week I will have that for the council. Okay. So on Councilor Kamel's motion to place that communication on file, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that communication is filed. Next order of business.
Okay, I have a couple of claims. Kimberly Nizza of 25 Belleville Street, Malden, Mass.
Finance.
Okay, and Emery Epstein, 14 Scott Street, Medford, Mass.
Finance.
Thank you. On Councilor Condon's motion to refer those two claims to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those claims are referred. Thank you. Next order of business.
Committee reports. Personnel appointments, paper 43918. Order that Debbie Wallace, 15 Watt Street, Malden, be reappointed as a member of the Cultural Council. Term to expire October 1, 2021. Do you want me to do
Motion to receive the committee report.
Okay, you want to do
No,
them
no,
together or singularly?
No. Singularly.
Singularly, thank you. On Councilor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Crow for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. And last week we had our meeting and we met with Deborah Wallace, and she's being reappointed to the Cultural Council. She had served as president, now is serving as treasurer of the council, and she really, talked about really getting involved and going to one of those first meetings a few years ago before she was appointed, and being so excited about all the things that was going on that she really wanted to get on that committee. So she is, and she'll be reappointed. She's actually a cultural wellness coordinator in Watertown for an architectural firm. And so I make a motion that we reappoint Deborah Walls to the Cultural Council.
Okay, thank you. On Councilor Crow's motion to confirm the appointment, all those in favor? Any opposed? The appointment has been confirmed.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Next order of business.
Committee report, personnel and appointments, paper 239 of 18. Order that Albert Spatafora, 453R Highland Avenue, Malden, be reappointed as a member of the Malden Redevelopment Authority Board, term to expire May 2023.
Okay, so we're going to go to the chair of appointments, but I have been told that Councilor Spatafora, we do need to vote on his abstaining from voting on this, since that's his dad. So we're going to go to Councilor Crow first. So on Councilor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, committee reports received. Councilor Crow for the committee.
Well, he got recused.
Yep. Don't we do that after?
No, he needs to.
Okay, so we're going to, on Councilor Crow's motion to recluse Councilor Spatafora with this vote, we're going to do.
I think it's Council Spatafora that
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, do we do a voice vote? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That passes. Thank you.
So.
Okay. On Councilor Crow's motion to receive this committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Councilor Crow for the committee.
And again, last week we met with Mr. Spatafora. Most people know him. He's very active in Malden. He born in Malden, grew up in Malden, owns Anthony's, and he filled an appointment on the MRA board 2.5 years ago that was filling Ed Norton's seat, who unfinished term, and so now he's very active on that board, and he's looking for a reappointment till 2023. And so the committee voted that we approve that reappointment, and I make that motion before half the council's gone.
Yeah, I know. Where did everybody go? Okay, on Councilor Crow's motion to confirm the appointment of Albert Spatafora, all those in favor? Any opposed? The appointment has been confirmed. Thank you. Next order of business.
Committee report, Finance Paper 507 of 18, ordered that the City of Malden accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 17, 17C, 17C and a half, 17D, relative to increasing veterans' tax abatements annually, with the following amendments to include 17F, 22G, and 22H.
Thank you. On Councilor Condon's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Condon for the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would ask the council to table this paper 1 week. There's been an ongoing conversation back and forth between the law department and the assessor's office on the numbers and letters of each of these things they want to adopt as part of it.
Okay.
So, table for 1 week.
Thank you. So this will be tabled for 1 week, seconded by Councilor Matheson. All those in favor? Any opposed? That will be tabled for 1 week. Thank you, Councilor Condon.
Committee report, Finance Paper 50818, order that the sum of, excuse me, $90,604.30 be the same as hereby appropriated from the TNC surcharge municipal disbursement account.
Okay, on Councilor Condon's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Condon for the committee.
Thank you. This is as a result of a 10% surcharge that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts imposes on any Uber and Lyft pickups within the community. Last year we had over 900,000 pickups in Malden, which resulted in $90,000 of funds that have been used on has to be used on transportation infrastructure related items. So they're requesting that the money be put towards the intersection at Main Street in Winter, Main Street in Forest, and Main Street and Kenmore Road. I know Forest Street has had a lot of road work done right up into that area, and they want to square away that intersection. So we brought this up in committee, and it was unanimously voted to approve it. So I would ask that you adopt it.
Any lights on the floor? Councilor Spatafora.
Yeah, I support this. Main Street is the main thoroughfare, obviously, given the name, but also it's an area where you're welcome to the city, and that area is in much need of some tender loving care there, especially on the road. So I'm fully supporting the money going there for the first tranche of money to fix that corridor, which a lot of people traverse. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Seeing no further lights, on Councilor Condon's motion to adopt the order, clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley?
Yes.
Councilor Seeker? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes. Okay, the order is adopted. Thank you. Next order of business.
Committee report, Rules and Ordinance, Paper 478 of 18, order be hereby ordained that by the City Council that Chapter 12 of the Revised Ordinance of 1991 as amended be in the same I hereby further amended by adding a new section, 715, for the development impact mitigation.
Okay. Thank you. On Councilor O'Malley's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor O'Malley for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President. You can't see it on your docket tonight. But this paper is sponsored by myself and Councillor Spadafora, and it is generally taken from a proposal that Councillor Spadafora had a few years ago. At this point, what we would be doing is we'd be referring it to a joint ordinance and planning board hearing to discuss it. And the gist of it is, rather than only 3 small areas in the city generating any mitigation for residential development, it would be across the city. Right now, it's just in the residential incentive overlay zones A and B and Rose Quarry. So this would be across the city. It's with any new multifamily, 5 units and above. So this will go to a, well, I hope it will go to a joint planning and ordinance hearing, and that would be my motion. Thank you. And Councillor Spadafora would like to add something.
Thank you. Councillor Spadafora.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, too, for the ward councils and the councils at large that are not part of the committee, Councilor Winslow had a great idea. Some of the money, we've determined some amounts that we want to go there, but one of the ideas was Councilor Winslow's idea, and I think it's worth noting, is part of there's going to be a nominal number per unit, and some of that money we're going to put in towards the Community Preservation Act so we can get matching funding. So it's a kind of 2-for-1 deal. I think it was a great idea by Councilor Winslow. So I think it's a great collaboration of getting not only funding outside these small areas like Councilor O'Malley mentioned, but also Councilor Window's idea to take some of the funding and put it in an area that we can get state matching. So if this passes, I think it's a win-win. It can hopefully help us with some of the projects that we seem to always run out of money for. So kudos to both councils.
Thank you, Councilor Spadafora. So let me just make sure I have it right. So this is on Councilor O'Malley's motion to refer this to a joint planning and ordinance committee. Is that correct? Hearing. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Sika? Yes. Councilor Spadafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, all those that were involved. Great idea.
This committee report license Christmas tree sales, Jay's Pizza and Ice Cream, 167 Center Street, Malden. It's a renewal yearly.
Okay. Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee report is received.
Move granting.
Okay. Councilor Anderson's motion to grant the petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Petition is granted. Thank you.
The next is a series of committee reports for license for renewal of amusement machines. Provo Corporation, DBA Patrick's, Franny's, 3640 Lebanon Street, 3 machines. Loyal Order of Moose, 1910, 562 Broadway, 2 machines. Flaming Grill and Buffet, 52 Broadway, 2 machines. Dockside Restaurant, 229 Center Street, 8 machines.
Receive the committee report.
Thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Anderson for the committee.
Granting.
Okay. Councilor Anderson's motion to grant the petitions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those petitions are granted. Next order of business.
Committee report license renewals for extended hours. Planet Fitness, 795 Eastern Ave. The Supreme Foods, 1018 Eastern Ave. Planet Fitness, 795 Eastern Ave. Dunkin' Donuts, 980 Eastern Ave.
Motion to receive the committee report.
Yep, thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee report is received.
Move granting.
Thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to grant the petition, the petitions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The petition is granted.
The following are a committee report license on Class 2 and Class 3 auto licenses. Malden Auto Brokers, Inc., 189 Eastern Avenue, Malden, 35 cars. Malden Auto Brokers, Inc., 225 Eastern Ave, 20 cars. Rio Auto Group, DBA, Dealer One Motors, 77 Broadway, 48 cars. Hub Starters and Alternators, Inc., 172 Broadway, 4 cars. Louis Foreign Garage, 191 Salem Street, 3 cars. River Auto Street, Sales, 77 East Ave, 25 cars. Malden Auto Sales, 147 Ferry Street, 25 cars. Auto Tech 2, Inc., 1236 Eastern Ave, 5 cars. AGM Auto Sales, Inc., 135 Eastern Ave, 15 cars. Bay State Auto Gallery, LLC, 616 Broadway, 30 cars. Richards Auto Sales, Inc., 672 Broadway, 80 cars. Greenleaf Auto Enterprise, Inc., 28 Broadway, 55 cars. Greenleaf Auto Sales 2, Inc., 69 Newland Street, 37 cars. Prestige Motors of Malden, Inc., 600 Broadway, 57 cars. 67. Maximum Auto Group, 105 Broadway, 31 cars. John's Service, 20 Beach Street, 15 cars. Smart Buy USA, 497 Broadway, 27 cars. Malden Broadway Auto, 590 Broadway. I don't know how many cars.
Move, receive the committee report.
Certainly, the License Committee has been quite busy. On Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee report is received.
Yeah, this is obviously the License Committee has reviewed all of these end-of-the-year licenses that expire, and these are the licenses for renewal of those that are due to be renewed for the first of the year. And I've asked the council to grant them all except the Smart Buy USA at 497 Broadway. The petitioner wishes to come back in. We might make a change to that one. So I'd like to take that petition and refer that back to the License Committee, but ask the committee to grant approval of all the others. So on the motion to grant, with the exception of Smart, that will.
Thank you. Thank you. And Councilor Anderson's motion to grant all those petitions except for Smart Buy USA. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those.
On the motion to refer Smart Buy back to the License Committee?
Thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to refer Smart Buy back to the License Committee. Seconded by Councilor Matheson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that will go back to committee. Thank you.
Committee report license, outdoor parking, Motel Realty, Inc., 755 Broadway, Malden, 19 spaces.
Move that we receive that committee report?
Thank you. Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Anderson.
Move granting.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson's motion to grant that petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That has been granted.
Committee report license, paper number 34318, Class 2, Eli and Gary's Automotive, DBA Eli's Garage, 15 cars, new.
Councilor Anderson's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received.
Yes, this is the one that we denied. Yes, so this is one that the application was inappropriate for its location. We've debated it back and forth, and
yeah, they withdrew. Yeah,
and it's there on the table for us. He asked that they withdraw without prejudice, so I just placed this one on file because it's been withdrawn without prejudice.
Okay, thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to place that on file, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That has been filed. Thank you.
Committee report, rules and ordinance, paper 360 of 18, order that the City of Malden submit to the General Court for passage an act relative to reducing the voting age in municipal elections in the City of Malden.
If I may, I think that we may have forgotten a Class 3 dealer's license.
He bunched it with the Class.
Oh, did we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. We just wanted to make sure over here. Sounds good. So we're at paper 567-18. No, we're not there. Where are we?
569-18.
569-18. So earlier in the evening, we did hear from a few residents and citizens about potential 16 and 17-year-old voting. This was voted out of ordinance without a recommendation. It was just voted out, back up to the council. Just for a little history, it was referred to the Citizen Engagement Committee, where Councilor Sika ran that forum, where the community came out, and I'm sure she would be able to speak a little bit more in depth about how that went. But I think that we heard tonight from great Malden youth who are part of the Youth Civic Council, and I think that our goal here is to strive to increase voter participation, and we're literally having young citizens of Malden organizing and petitioning their government to give them the right to vote in municipal elections. Who are we to deny that type of right to a fellow human being, a fellow citizen of our community that wants to participate? If this does increase voter participation, both of the youth as well as older residents who are probably going to turn out in droves to make sure that they get their voice heard, I think that we will be a stronger community because of it. But I don't want the residents to think I'm taking this lightly by any means. You absolutely deserve to have your right to hear this and to vote on this. And so do know that before any of this becomes law, you will have the opportunity to vote on this in a referendum ballot question, and we will definitely know whether or not the residents of Malden and the citizens of Malden approve and encourage this type of action. So again, I want to thank the students for organizing, and I'm open to hearing the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. We do have lights on the floor. Councilor Anderson.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I'm glad to speak in support of this paper this evening. Originally I thought, it just seems like 16-year-olds may not be mature enough to make the tough decisions. And I think Councilor O'Malley has just said, who are we to deny them? Well, I think that that's what we're elected to do, to make hard decisions. And so we get these petitions that come before us, and we have the opportunity to think about them. We have the opportunity to weigh them and to come up with our best judgments on this. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that, this does make sense that we move forward with this. It's not like we have voters that are overrunning our polls on election days. We struggle. This last election, midterm election, had great turnout because great turnout was almost 50% turnout because there was some hot issues that were on, or very bombastic persons in the race that brought people out. But by and large, we don't have a large number of people that come out to vote. So it's not like we are displacing any of these well thought about older citizens by allowing younger people to come out. I think some of the argument that I heard this evening, where there's a lot more discussion in the high school classrooms about what civics is all about and what are the issues of the day and what are things that are important, lead me to believe that this is worth pursuing, that this is worth sending on to sending approvingly through this body, sending it on to our state legislature for them to deal with it, and then ultimately back here to the voters of Malden. So I'm prepared to vote in favor of it, and I urge my colleagues in the council to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, as a sponsor, I'm definitely in favor of this. I remember moving to Malden back in 1989 and soon thereafter purchasing our home, and there was an election that pitted Ed Lucy against Butch Giannetti for mayor. And I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was amazing. I think this 60% local turnout in a mayoral election, and as someone who grew up in California where if you got 12% participation in local elections, that was a lot. And that was one of the things I was amazed about and really appreciated about Malden, that there was that amount of civic engagement. But now, the last local election, we had 20% turnout. So to an initiative that will, the students have done their research, and other communities that have undertaken this Participation is not only increased, of course, with the students who vote, but with their parents. I think that's important. And then students who vote when they're in high school participate in the long run. I mean, I think it, as one of the speakers pointed out, I mean, if you're voting when you're in high school, you're settled probably in your home, your parents are around, you're with people who can sort of mentor you that first time, rather than when, you know, very few of our 18-year-olds could vote in a November election. So you're out there at college. I remember being in college trying to get a ballot. It's confusing. So just as our students have gotten that civic engagement and really matured and know about our community, they're not having that opportunity to vote. So I think that's important. I think that, you know, we have, you know, 16 to 17-year-olds are, do have some adult responsibilities. Driving is a very important adult responsibility, and students can do that. They can work and make judgments in the workplace. I mean, we have to remember this is a home rule petition. It's going to go to the legislature. I mean, if it's adopted, I mean, 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds can register to vote. It doesn't mean they'll have to. If those students don't feel that they're mature enough to vote, they don't have to. We're not forcing them. But the students who are ready can do that. I mean, we saw a great group of students sing to us tonight. We have a great group of students out here who have come to many meetings. You know, there are students out there that are ready to vote, and we can get them registered. I mean, we have to remember that, you know, there's issues about taxes. I mean, requirements that only white men who pay property taxes were eliminated before the Civil War. Racial and gender barriers to voting were eliminated after great struggles. During the Civil Rights Movement, poll taxes were eliminated, so income was no longer a factor. So I think all those things, you know, talking about taxes or that are really set aside. We don't make that a standard for adults. Why should that make a difference here? We did, in 1971, the voting age was lowered from 21 to 18. And I think all these actions to expand the group of people who can vote have only served to make our democracy stronger. And that's really why I introduced this paper. You know, we talk about the diversity in Malden, and I think it's always a challenge for us to figure out how do we ever become a more inclusive community. And this is an initiative the students came up with. And this is how they say, help include me and my families in our democracy. So that's really why I'm supporting this. And I also get inspiration. We can't forget that Malden was in the town instructions of May 1776. We were the first community that approved of the Continental Congress voting for the Declaration of Independence, so we as a democracy could vote. So I think we should be bold, as one of the speakers said. Malden has been bold about voting rights in the past, and we should be bold now for our future. So this is about the future of Malden. That's why I support it, and so I urge my fellow councilors to take this step. Like I say, it's only part of a step process to get it to the legislature. The students have a lot of work. You know, it's going to take a lot of work at the legislature to get the legislature to pass it. And then if they're successful there, they're going to have to convince the whole set of voters in Malden. So this is a step, but I think it's an important step to send to our students. We support you. We support the future of Malden, and let's move forward with this. Thank you very much, and I urge you to support it. And I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Winslow. So this is a home rule petition that will be sent to the State House. This, from the chair, I do have to commend those that worked so hard on it. I personally think it's very much an encouragement to our future. But again, it's a three-step. This is just the first step because at the end it does go to a ballot vote. I have some more lights on the blinking. That's great. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. I think all the students that we've heard through this whole process have been extremely eloquent and impactful in that. And I devote my working life to actually empowering youth. So I really do take this extremely seriously. I do feel, though, however, at this point, we have not really even, I sort of looked through the legal ramifications. No other Massachusetts state, no other city has done this in Massachusetts. And so that really does need to be looked at. I've said this in a couple of other meetings. When we send something to change our charter, I know it's the state and it has to come back and do that, but we just don't let 16 and 17-year-olds vote. We really don't even have all the nuts and bolts to this. What are the legal ramifications? How does this work? And you mean just even, we can't get names and addresses as we do a knocking to youth. We cannot do it on the high school steps. We need to make sure that, you know, people actually live in Malden. You know, that might help with the, you know, Malden high students who live in Malden, but with the charter school in the MC, we don't have that. So I think there's still a lot more that needs to be looked at before we send something to the legislature that has no other information besides, here's some what students want. And again, they've done a terrific job with really researching and doing some things, but really not giving us all that we have. We did this, well, not this, but with when we were talking about marijuana, and it has nothing to do with that, but and one of the things was we were really concerned about what, you know, some of the impacts after, and we saw that a couple of communities really had some negative things, and we're looking at those, at how to make sure once we pass something that we at least address some of those. So I think that this is kind of premature to do this. I am usually generally very much in favor, and I do agree that we got to figure out a way to empower all those that really want to get involved in the process in a way, but I don't think this is the right way. So unfortunately, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Councillor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair. I was on Ordinance Committee as this moved its way through, and I heard some excellent arguments for and against. It's not clear or obvious how we should side on this, but I can say this. We are elected to represent the members of our community. And at this stage, I don't know how my constituents feel about increasing the voter population by allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to have the vote. I can say that I know the world has become a more complicated place. I know it's very difficult to grow up in. And I don't want to see the youth have to be thrown into politics and campaigning and things of that nature when there's an opportunity here for you to grow and learn while you're in school. I remember when I was in law school, I heard that the young lady say that they have mock trials. Well, we had a moot court in law school, and this is when we practiced oral arguments before judges. And I was 26, not 16, and I wasn't ready to go out and do that. I needed that time to practice and to learn. I wonder why it wouldn't be sufficient to understand the issues that are facing us on a ballot by doing a mock election in school, for example. I think that the youth that want to be engaged are very much engaged. They get involved in campaigns. They get involved in issues that are important to them. I don't know that this step is actually going to increase turnout. I heard Councilor Winslow say our percentage turnout was 20%, and it does fluctuate in municipal elections between 20, 25%. I think if you increase this population, you might find that percentage actually go down relative to the overall eligible voters. As far as changing ages, we've seen that the smoking age has gone up from 18 to 21. We've seen the drinking age go up from 18 to 21. Marijuana was just passed by a ballot initiative, and the legal age for engaging in that was set at 21. I heard one of the speakers say earlier, where do you draw the line? If your argument is that because 16-year-olds can work, well, 14-year-olds can work as well. So should the voting age be 14? It's a legitimate question. Definitely the young people that have spoke before us are socially conscious and intelligent and probably very capable of voting. That doesn't necessarily, based on that small sample population, mean that we should change the voting age for all 16 and 17-year-olds. What I'd like to do is find out how the community actually feels about it. I know we did some public engagement and a couple dozen people had turned out, maybe a few dozen people. I don't know exactly how many. I looked to Councilor Sika for that. But I think if we were to send this as a ballot question on the next municipal election to the electorate and see how they feel, I'd be a lot more comfortable voting to send this to the State House. I would make a motion that we include this to be a ballot question on the 2019 ballot. It wouldn't be binding, but it would give us guidance as to whether or not our community really wants this. So that's what I have to say. I do applaud everyone for sponsoring it, speaking in favor of it. I do appreciate all the arguments that I heard for and against it. And again, it's not completely obvious how we should come out on this. There are great arguments both ways. But I would like to hear from the people of Malden and really understand if this is something the community wants. Like Councilor Crowe said, this would be the first community in Massachusetts to pass such a thing. Anyway, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. And I do want to commend all of you students who have put the time into doing this. Whether it passes or it doesn't, I'm sure it's been a wonderful experience for all of you to tread down this road. As I said, if you were here the first time, I voted not to even send this to ordinance. Okay, I was one of the 3 votes that voted not to send it to ordinance. And I felt very strongly about it because I really do believe that school is a time when you should be learning and you should be experiencing different things. And that evening, that first evening, what I said was I felt that the best place for this to happen was in a school setting where, as Councilor Matheson said, you would have mock elections. They would mirror what happens, you know, in the local election or the state election. And then your teachers and your principals and your superintendent, they should be having classes where you could sit down and look at what were the results in your high school versus what were the results in the local election or the state and the city election and why, so that you can begin to understand, that, as Councilor Matheson said once again, the complex society that we live in. And I know that at 16, I remember I thought I knew everything, and I thought there wasn't not a lot more I could learn. But once you're 30, you look back on 16 and or 17 and realize that there was a tremendous amount of growth that happens in that next frame of life. So, you know, I can't support this. Depending on what we do with a ballot question, I would be open to a non-binding ballot question, but I could not support this going forward as it is tonight. We've, you know, spoken with our city clerk. We need machines for our registered voters to be able to vote. We need new machinery. We don't have the equipment, the knowledge, or not the knowledge, we don't have the equipment or the understanding yet how we would even implement something like this in the city clerk's office. So as Councilor Crowe said, the nuts and bolts have not been discussed. This has been, you know, I think on a very fast track, and it needs a lot more work before I could ever get behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, a lot of the councils already spoke upon some of the feelings I have. I would say this. I am not going to sit up here and ever say that I don't think this group or any group at your age is immature, because I can't say that. The representative I've seen here are very mature people, much more mature than when I was 16. I can tell you I would not be in a city hall when I was 16. In fact, I would be nowhere near a city hall at 16, so I commend you for that. My challenge, which I said last week in the ordinance meeting, was as simply as logistics, which all the councils up here said it. I simply asked, how do you validate that a student lives in the city of Malden? And the reason why I say that, and some people might laugh at it, is I have somebody who's a relative of mine who works in the school system. There is a problem in the city of Malden, not a major problem, that we have a lot of kids coming to the city of Malden because we have a great education system. There is no way for the clerk to validate where he or she lives other than asking for an address. There is no process in place. And that's why other communities haven't done it. You don't have a license yet. There's no way to validate it. That is a little bit of the challenge out there. So for me, I want the clerk's office to come back to this body and say, this is how we would validate it. I asked very eloquently last week, and I don't think it's changed, to the clerk, can we validate a student other than just asking where they live?
No.
There's no way we can do a background check, nothing.
No.
And I'm not saying that's the main excuse, but as someone who's going to vote on this to set of the next step, it's part of the process. I am intrigued by the ballot process because I think that would help the legislator move this forward up there. But there is no way that I don't think that your involvement thus far has been unbelievable. Again, I only stress simply because when I was 16, I was nowhere near City Hall or would not even look at a project like this. So you're ahead of the curve. And simply, and I said this last week, but if there was a process in place and I think the residents voted for it, I would support it. But personally, I wanted to say, Council Murphy hit on it, and so did Council Mathers. I said it last week. I want 16-year-olds to be 16-year-olds. And I know it sounds like an old guy's cop-out, but I have 3 children, and my oldest is 11 years old, and I wish he was still 7 because they're growing up fast, and I can, and you probably don't believe me, and you probably, Council Murphy, sounds like your great aunt, not your grandmother, but you don't know everything. You don't know everything. You don't. You think you do. You definitely know more than we do, but you don't. But for me, I want school to be a place of learning and not become a political place, because that is, I can assure you this right now. If you were able to vote in this community, Malden High, Malden Catholic, the Voc, the charter school would become a political playground for everybody up here, because we would be vying for your vote. And if even though the law doesn't says you can't, because it's public property, we would be in there. And elected officials would have the upper hand because we can come in there and say, we're going to talk about civics. What we're going to be talking about is why you should vote for one of us. And to me, that's not what we should be worried about 16. You should be having fun, getting involved, doing other things. And I'm not saying this is bad, but for me, at this point, I need to see the process in place to validate voting. And I would support going on the ballot. But I just don't understand how everybody thinks that you can just come in and give your address and name. There's such a problem. I don't want to use the word problem. There's such a point in the city. We have a truant's officer to make sure we validate people live in the city. There was an issue a couple of years ago where we asked everybody to validate their address again because there was that many children not living in the city of Malden, but coming here. And how does that affect us? We only have a finite amount of money. So if there's 100 kids in the school or 10 kids in the school that don't belong in this community, guess what? That's services that you're not going to get because we're using that money somewhere else. And other communities do it, and we've been a great resource for other areas because we have a lot of really good teachers and programs, as well as programs with kids who have higher needs for services. So at this point, I can't support it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, I think I'll echo a lot of the my colleagues here. This is a difficult decision, which I think a lot of us have given thought to. But, you know, it is true, we definitely need to get our young people civically engaged. And if you forgive me, I have one quote. I like quotes. This is a quote from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choices are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. And so it is very important to engage them, but I think the education has to come first. Councilor Crowe did bring up some excellent points that I want to echo. One of them is that I'm afraid if we're so premature in the level of detail that we send, and that we're the only or the first municipality to have this, do we open ourselves up to having elections challenged? That's a concern that I have. And then just a reminiscence about, it's a long time ago now, when I first got to college when I was 18. And they might not do this as much. I think there might be safeguards against this. But when you get there, there's all the credit card folks ready to sign you up. And to remember that and to think about the overly politicized environment we live in now. And I just feel like it would be an intensely predatory situation to sort of manipulate the votes, the potential voters, before they have a real chance to get their grounding and think things through. So I absolutely would consider a non-binding ballot question. I think that's probably the way we ought to consider going if we're going to move this at all. I'm going to vote no on this particular sending this to the legislator tonight. So.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. I had an opportunity to speak with Teddy prior to the meeting, and he holds you kids with the highest esteem. And after listening to you speak and how articulate you are, I think there's no question you represent the best of the best that this city has to offer. Whether you win or lose this vote, be proud that you brought it forth. Don't ever quit on what your thoughts are, because you got this whole city council thinking. There's been good ideas on both sides. So I'm very proud to have seen you people up here engaged. I think Teddy has done a great job working with you, and we hold you with the highest respect. So thank you.
Very encouraging. Okay, second time around, Councilor Winslow.
No, I just wanted to, just clarify some issues. This, other communities have passed a home rule petition, so other city councils have taken the action that are being called on for tonight. It just has not gone through the legislative process. So that is why other cities have not done it yet, because the legislature hasn't acted. And one of the things the students explained is one of the dilemmas is that without enough city council stepping up to bring it to the legislature, it's dying at the legislative level because there's not an interest. So having another community like Malden could make a difference. So, so that is one of the key things. It takes, if we're waiting for action, that's an excuse for everybody, and nothing will happen then. So I think also related to the logistics, I mean, one of the things to make clear, right now, these 16 and 17-year-olds can go into the city clerk's office, fill out a registration form. Our clerk's office takes that form, processes it just like they would be if they're 18. And so we are putting time and effort right now into that. They don't get registered to vote because that's not the law, but we are expending city resources right now to get 16 and 17-year-olds ready to vote. So my thought is it might even be less resources because they'll actually be able to vote and that. So, so I just think those are sort of some red herring arguments, at least in my mind. Anytime the government takes action, there's some consequences and administrative things that happen. Just like when the voting age went from 21 to 18, I'm sure there's things. So we can make a lot of excuses, but I think a good idea is worth acting on. And I think it is ultimately the voters. Why vote twice on this? We can see what happens with the legislature, and then the voters can always vote. We can have that binding thing as we maybe contemplate our city charter all at the same time. So I still encourage people to vote. I'm going to vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we see no other lights on the floor. No amendments to this at all? Okay. So on Councilor O'Malley's motion, it was not. Okay, so we have. Councilor O'Malley.
I would like to gauge the interest of an amendment where it would only be 17-year-olds if we propose that. I don't know if that's something that would change the minds of some of the people on the fence. It avoids a lot of the hurdles that you guys were talking about. We literally have a book that is given to us when we all get elected. It's a list of all residents in Malden, 17 years and older. So that avoids the issue that you were facing about having access to the voting rolls. Just throw it out there how people feel about that if they're not in support of 16 and 17-year-olds.
You want to talk? No. Sorry, I thought your light was on. Okay, I see no Further discussion, no lights. Hold on, let me put your light on.
Motion to approve it, so.
Okay. Motion. Yep. Motion made by Councilor Winslow to approve, seconded by Councilor Anderson. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? No. Councilor Condon? No. Councilor Crowe? No. Councilor Matheson? No. Councilor Murphy? No. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Sika? No. Councilor Sparafora? No. Councilor Winslow?
I really want to say to the students, voting rights often take a struggle. Council President? So I voted yes, but you realize a lot of people have voted struggle.
Councilor Winslow, this is a vote.
President DiMaria?
Okay, so did you vote, Councilor Winslow?
Yes.
Okay.
Council President DiMaria?
Yes.
Okay, it does not pass.
Okay, that failed. Thank you for your efforts, and to all the counselors for their great supportive words. So, next order of business.
Committee report, public property, paper 505 of 16, order that the city solicitor amend deeds for various parcels of land to restrict use of said land to public for conservation purposes forever.
Councilor Kamel's motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Kamel for the committee.
Thank you. This mirrors what we spoke about last week that I brought forward. This is one that is further along in its life cycle. We have discussed this. It pertains to several parcels behind the Forestdale School that are wooded. I'd like to defer, if Councilor Murphy doesn't mind, speaking a little bit on it to my colleague.
Okay, hold on one second. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Councilor Kamel, Chairperson Kamel. These are 6 pieces of property that are behind the Rolling Grain facility. It's something I've been working on for basically the last 18 months. It's finally coming to fruition, I hope, this evening with a vote of the City Council. It's very similar to what was done up at High Rock. This will be sent to the state legislature so that it will actually be put in conservation trust and forever, in perpetuity. There is 156,172 square feet. It's quite a large parcel. One of them in itself is 53,000 square feet. We did have one amendment that we had made. We had a parcel on here, numbered 108-783-314A, which under further research we found had actually been combined with the Forestdale Park. So it is now part of the Forestdale Park, which actually is good because it's not contiguous with the other parcels. But we did pick up a parcel to replace that, which is identified as 111-783-322, which is actually a paper part of Gibson Street. So that will be added into, this particular order. So basically, it reads to strike parcel 314A and add the new parcel to the list. This particular parcel is formally known as 322. It doesn't have a parcel number at the moment, but we're identifying it under its former identification number. So I would hope that you would all pass this. It's all ledge back there. It will prevent development. As we know, ledge development causes problems for most existing homes around it. And I would ask that you look favorably on this evening.
So just a question, Councilor Murphy. So that amendment was part of this?
Yes.
Or do we need to vote on that amendment first?
It's actually written as, why don't we vote on it to make?
Yeah, let's do that. So,
make sure.
So if you want to make that amendment formal,
Yes.
seconded by Councilor Kamel, I assume?
Yes, so
Yep.
the amendment is to strike parcel 108-783-314A and add a new parcel to the list formerly known as parcel number 111-783-32.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Murphy, and seconded by Councilor Kamel. We do have some lights on the floor before we take the vote. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to repeat what I said last week. I fully support of this for all the reasons that Councilor Murphy and Councilor Kamel mentioned. This is an area that is, it's not too often the City Council gets an area to designate as green space or conservation land, but more importantly, same issues as Councilor Kamel. There's a lot of ledge in that area, so any type of development, even if wanted, would be a safety concern for those residents. And also, this is an area that butts up against Melrose, not to protect Melrose, but I'm going to say it like it is. They actually told a developer at one point, build an access road through Melrose and put the development on Malden because we don't really care about Malden. So for us, it protects our land, but also I think provides being a good neighbor to them because we're gonna keep it green, not only for the residents of Malden, but also the residents of Melrose. So it's the right thing to do for many reasons, and I fully support this. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the sponsor and as well as the chair of Public Properties. As a former park ranger, conservation of land in our city is vital and a huge priority for me. So I thank you putting this forward, and I am fully in support.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Kamel.
I think Councilor Spatafora hit on a lot of the things I wanted to say. I just wanted to echo from last week when I was discussing my own that we live in a great city. I think it's made even greater by the fact that we have eco-diversity within our city. We have bustling city center, and we still have woods here. And in addition, we have issues with the ledge, issues with creating more impervious surface is a problem we don't want to have. And so thank the entire council for considering this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Winslow.
Yes, and I'll be voting in support of this. It is important to conserve the land that we have, and as we experience over in many parts of our community, that when this type of land is developed, you do have that extra runoff, and it's really been a problem, in the lower lying areas of runoff that wasn't very well managed, as we've experienced on Bowman Street and other places. So I think it's important to help conserve this and not exacerbate flooding problems. So I will be voting in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. And from the chair, I do support this. I think this was a fantastic collaboration between both committees, and we do have to cherish the little land that we have left in Malden. So I see no further lights. So we have made the amendment, so we're going to vote on the amendment. As Councilor Murphy stated, seconded by Councilor Kamel. All those in favor? Any opposed? The amendment is passed. Now we are going to adopt the order. Can I do this? On Councilor Murphy and Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt the order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Councilor Matheson?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley?
Yes.
Councilor Seeker?
Yes.
Councilor Spatafora? Councilor Winslow?
Yes.
Council President DiMaria?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, passes unanimously. That's great. I think we have Councilor Kamel, let me put your light on, is moving to take a paper out of our tabled, 4 of them, so I'm going to give you the floor. Councilor Kamel.
Thank you. I would like to move to take several papers off the table that are committee reports that came out of the Public Property Committee. They pertain to AT&T small cell towers. Little history, if you don't mind me retreading it. These came in front of us it was a public hearing back in April. I put them forward last week. There was a little bit of, we wanted to do a little bit of due diligence, make sure to go back and absolutely confirm that these had been through the public hearing process when they first came through, and they did. They originally came in as a batch of 6. Two of them have since been withdrawn. And the other 4 we have discussed in public property several times. When they first came through, they did not have the benefit of having known our new ordinance pertaining to small cell towers. Our building inspector did a review of them. We discussed them in committee, had a lot of good discussion and very accommodating with the petitioner. They went back, they did their due diligence, they did their work, they came back. They met all of our conditions. They were reviewed once again by our building commissioner. We discussed them in public property, unanimously accepted. We also made sure to reach out to the ward chair, the ward councilors for those locations. And I am moving to take them, and I should tell you the numbers, sorry.
Yep.
They are committee papers, committee reports 5/16/18, 5/17/18, 5/18/18, 5/19/18 that I'm moving to take off the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a vote before I take a question on Councilor Kamel's motion to take those 4 papers off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so they are officially off the table. Now I do have a light. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one question. I know that we had set up all different types of requirements, et cetera, but I know our building inspector has spent a lot of time reviewing these, and I know that eventually the goal is to have our wire inspector inspecting these regularly. Were the fees collected for these particular proposals?
If I would defer to the clerk for those.
My understanding that Morgan collects them as soon as they make their application.
Yeah, thank you. That was my understanding too.
Understood. And that this is a biannual fee, I believe we have, in order for us to maintain the.
Yeah, it's whatever the ordinance.
And so forth.
Oh, I just, this was kind of the result of a lot of work. I mean, we spent a long time, so I just wanted to kind of restate that. So
Great.
I am in support.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Okay, on Councilor Kamel's motion to grant those 4 petitions. Excuse me? I think we did.
We did receive it.
Yep, I think we did.
Oh, we took it off the table. Do we have to?
Oh, thank you. Oh, do it again? We
Yeah, I
might as
think.
well.
Yeah, we've already been received. They've already been received. Okay, they're fine.
Should I
Yep.
do it or no? Okay, good.
They're fine. Sorry.
Okay. On Councilor Kamel's motion to grant the petitions, any conditions before we take that?
No.
Okay. Okay, and no lights. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those petitions have been granted. Thank you. One more. Oh, yes. Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. 10 pages of a docket. We're almost there. Okay, so on Councilor Matheson's motion to enter into executive session, clerk will call the roll. Excuse me, for the purpose of discussing. Oh, excuse me. Before we do that, Councilor Condon.
I'd like to move that we suspend docket rules for the purpose of presenting a paper and sending it to committee where it's our last meeting next week.
Wonderful. Okay. Why? Hold on, Councilor. Why? Suspend docket rules?
Yeah, because you're supposed to let everybody know what's going on.
He's just sending it to committee.
I just received this paper tonight, so.
Okay, so Councilor Condon would like to suspend docket rules for the purposes of discussing our mitigation funds, because we're at the tail end of our year. If you want to.
I read the paper.
Thank you.
I'll read the paper and then send it to committee for next week.
Yes.
And bring it under suspension to the full council from committee. I don't think it'd be a difficult paper to pass.
Right, I think it's all good news for all of us, but I do have a light, Counselor, just give me 1 second. Counselor Spatafora.
I'll yield till after this vote,
Okay.
Madam President. We have to put a vote before we go to executive session.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, Counselor Condon, if you could read that?
Yeah, if the council so wishes, we can suspend docket rules for the purpose of adopting this, but that $408,000 in funds be available in the appropriate expendable trust account to be appropriated and allocated in the following manner. $204,000 be appropriated to the city development mitigation account, which would be the mayor's office, and $204,000 be appropriated, equally split amongst the 11 councilors' mitigation accounts of $18,545 in each of the following accounts, and it lists all the wards plus the 3 councilor at-larges. The $400,000 is made up of mitigation payments received from Overlook Ridge and 150 Exchange Street, which was $170,000. If the council wishes, I can suspend docket rules to pass this, or I can send it to committee.
Okay, so on Counselor Condon's motion to move to suspend docket rules for that purpose, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we've now suspended docket rules. And Counselor, you would like to refer this to Finance?
Like I said, I can refer it to Finance, or I can suspend docket rules for the purpose of adopting this.
Okay, I have some lights. Counselor Matheson.
No, I would only say that this is just a matter of housekeeping that we do almost an annual basis, where these accounts are divided so we can take care of our constituents in our wards. I'm amenable to passing it tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you, Counselor Matheson. Counselor Spatafora.
Yeah, exactly what Counselor Mathis just said. There's nothing, we can't change this, so we're going to have a meeting, and I think, there's a lot of other things we can get through, so I would support, based on the Finance Chair's recommendation to vote on it now. Like I said, we can't change this. It's a math problem. We got to divide and just move forward.
Move to adopt.
Okay, great. So on Counselor Condon's motion to adopt that financial piece, seconded by, who was it, Counselor Anderson? Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? I think we need a roll call. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Kamel? Yes. Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy? Yes. Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor Sika? Yes. Counselor Spatafora? Yes. Counselor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes. Passes unanimously, I think. Is that right? Okay. That's great. So now last on our docket. Do I see any lights? No? Okay. On Counselor Matheson's motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing a legal case, which we need to do. Okay, sure. We can do personal privilege first. Who said that? Counselor Spatafora, your light's on. Do you want to go first?
Personal. I have a motion that Councilor McNaught would like Marie Release in the mayor's office to attend executive session.
Yes.
I believe we have to vote on that.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to vote it before we go to executive session.
Yes.
And then after Councilor O'Malley has his chance to give personal privilege.
We'll do personal privilege
Yes.
first. Okay, that's great.
Thank you, Madam President.
All right, so personal privilege. I'm going to go to this side. Counselor Kamel.
Sorry, Ryan, I hit my button first. You were still talking, so I hit my button. I would like to once again remind the residents of 630 Salem that this Sunday, December 16th at 3 p.m., we're going to have a little holiday party with some food, some holiday cheer, some carols, and some holiday crafts. So I hope to see everybody down there. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Councilor Murphy, hold on. Let's get your light on. Come on. Where's my little mouse? There you go. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Just once again, I want to remind everyone that Santa Claus is coming to his Pine Banks Park office this Saturday and Sunday. He will be there from 3 to 6 p.m. on each day. There will be keepsake photos that are free of charge, as well as hot chocolate and coffee. So we hope to see everyone there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, we had a wonderful singing presentation from the Magro Girls of Malden High School. On Thursday the 20th, they will be out as well at the high school, along with the band, to do a holiday concert. So encourage everybody to check that out on Thursday evening the 20th. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor O'Malley is next.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to let everyone know, including the community, that the legislature had a joint committee on telecommunications, utilities, and energy today. So that is both the Senate and the House, and it was specific to the safety of the natural gas infrastructure in the Commonwealth. I submitted a 3-page overview of all of the things that we've been discussing recently with National Grid as well as our city and some of the incidents that have occurred, primarily on Main Street. But if there's anything else that you guys have, if you want to filter it through me or send it directly to our state delegation, I believe they're still taking comments. But I just wanted to update you guys on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. Since we're having personal privilege, today is my wife and I's 13th year wedding anniversary, so I figured I might as well not get in the doghouse. She probably shut it off 3 hours ago, so I'm not worried about it. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, God bless Mrs. Spatafora. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. Santa Claus is coming to town. Huh? Santa Claus was in Ward 7 last Saturday from about 10 o'clock to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, up and down the streets in Ward 7 Precinct 1. And weather permitting, Santa Claus is going to be out again. Yeah, it takes me a couple of days. No, Santa Claus doesn't, he likes the snow, but doesn't like the rain. And I have to tell you, it was cold out there Saturday. And weather permitting, Santa Claus will be out there again this coming Saturday. If the weather isn't right, then we'll push it back until the next Saturday. But be on the lookout, folks. It's still a great activity that goes on in Ward 7 that the residents get a great kick out of it. I'm not sure who enjoys it more, the kids or the adults. So, Santa Claus is coming to town. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. And I have to say the music is great. So, okay. No other lights? So now we're going to move into our executive session based on the vote. On Councilor Matheson's motion to enter an executive session for the purposes of discussing a legal case. Roll call vote for... Oh, Attorney McNaught, thank you for joining us. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to ask your authority, the council's authority, to have Maria Louise join us as well. Is that okay?
Certainly. Thank you, Attorney McNaught. So maybe I'll add that all together. So to break into executive session, we're going to vote on that first, then we'll vote on allowing our guests. So a roll call vote to go into executive session.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Condon? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Sika? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes, thank you. And this next vote is to allow executive session the attendance of Attorney John McNaught, our Assistant City Solicitor, and the Assistant to the Mayor, Maria Louise. We'll do a roll call vote on that, please.
Counsel Anderson? Yes. Counsel Kamel? Yes. Counsel Condon? Yes. Counsel Crowe? Yes. Counsel Matheson? Yes. Counsel Murphy? Yes. Counsel O'Malley? Yes. Counsel Seeker? Yes. Counsel Spatafora? Yes. Counsel Winslow? Yes. Counsel President DiMaria?
Yes, thank you. And while we're in executive session, when we return, it's only for the purposes of adjournment. So on Councilor Matheson's motion to go into executive session. Thank you.